ABC News contributors and former NYPD Chief of Detectives Jarrod Boyce, also former Acting Undersecretary for Intelligence at the DHS, John Cohen, along with former San Bernardino Police Department Chief Jarrod Burguan, and also managing partner at the Cochran Firm Channa Lloyd. So, Bob, you say the force seemed overly aggressive even at the very beginning of this video, that they were angry officers. What in particular stuck out to you from the initial approach?
I think what we saw was they abandoned all tactics. They ran up to the car and pulled them out of there and started screaming. There was no coordination in one person speaks, nothing of that. You're looking for more answers here. I don't know if we're going to get them. Right now, Stephen Mulroy, he's the prosecutor on this. He's going to have this case. He's going to control a lot of the information going out. I would like to know a lot more. I don't know if we will. There's going to be cooperations agreements and witness testimony that he's going to control. And he ran on a police on type of circumstance where he was going to change policing. So this is where we are right now. I'm not sure we're going to get a lot more information out of this case.
Jarrod, you know, you were a former police chief. You were in San Bernardino. I remember covering a lot of pretty hardcore crime in that area when I was a young reporter in Los Angeles. What did you think about the fact that, and you even mentioned that there was absolutely no training tactics that were shown in this video? Explain that. And also to follow up on what we asked Bob, Bob made the point that these officers were angry. So can you delve into what, you know, not only what you saw with regard to lack of tactics and training tactics, but also their aggressiveness?
Yeah, so, you know, we don't have all the about the original reason for the stop. Reason, everything that took place after that was bad. But even giving them the benefit of the doubt that maybe there was probable cause for the stop, maybe there was probable cause for the rest, if that even exists, the tactics, the training, what they displayed, that was not police work. That was not consistent with the way police officers are trained. The way that they extracted them from the car was not consistent. The way that they failed to communicate, and even once they did put their hands on them, the goal is once you do that, you end that as quickly as possible. They were not committed to ending that use of force. There were people that were concerned with wanting to use a taser, wanting to use the pepper spray, wanting to do a whole number of things, as opposed to using the amount of resources you had at the scene, being manpower, and getting handcuffs on that person and getting things under control as quickly as possible. There was no commitment to that. And I will say they did appear angry, and what that was just a complete and total loss of self-control.
You bring up a good point, Jarrod, because we were all around for the Rodney King beating, and I'll never forget it as a young reporter. And what we learned as journalists, we didn't know what had happened prior. We didn't see the whole entire situation play out. Only that one moment that was captured high above from that young man in the apartment building. So do you think well, clearly there's more that we want to know, but could there be really crucial things that we need to learn that happened prior to this incident?
Well, I think there is. So I realize that the department has come out and made a statement that they can't even validate that the original reason for the stop, the allegation or suspicion of DUI, they can't even validate that that in fact is true. We're going off just the initial statements of the officer. None of that up to this point has been captured on video. My point in saying that is, if the probable cause for the stop is bad, if the probable cause for the initial detention is bad, then everything that took place after that is bad. When we talk about what happened leading up to it, what I'm saying is that it's possible that legally there was a reason to stop Mr. Nichols. And it's possible that under the circumstances, the officers would have been able to articulate a need to extract him from the car. Clearly, this was not a normal traffic stop, as some have indicated. The initial video from that officer, the first video where he's getting out of the car, you can see there's a police car blocking the front of Mr. Nichols' car. His car stopped in the middle of traffic. There's another police car off to the side. So there was something about this that very much was not normal. Assuming that even that there was a reason to do that and block his path and do the things that they did, it doesn't mean that it justified the actions that they took. There has to be restraint. There has to be self-control. There has to be communication. There has to be a plan. And we didn't see any of that on display that evening.
Right. And Channa, you know, how were Tyre Nichols' rights violated, and how will that play out in this trial?
Well, let's start with, if there was no context or pretextual reason for the stop, he should have never been detained. He should have definitely not been chased to the next stop where he was then beaten. So all of that is really going to be dependent on what happened prior to the actual stop. If there was no reason for the stop, everything that happened thereafter was a violation of his constitutional rights.
And John, the actions of these officers, clearly a result of an ugly culture within the police department, something we've seen across the country. The Scorpion unit that they belong to has now been disbanded, but that's not going to fix the greater issue here. And as the former police chief of San Bernardino just said, there were absolutely no signs of training tactics in that video that we saw.
Yeah, as you've heard, there was a lot wrong with how these officers behaved. And, you know, there has been debate over the past several decades in policing, you know, should there be a warrior mentality or a spirit of service? You know, law enforcement officers are dealing with crime rates that have been rising since 2019. We're dealing with very violent mass shooters. The threats to law enforcement have increased over the past several years. We're seeing more ambushes of law enforcement officers, but none of that justifies discriminatory practices. None of that justifies trying to punish someone who you're placing under arrest, but because your training was inadequate or your techniques were inadequate, you were unable to do so, so you're pissed off. We have to use this tragedy as an opportunity to continue taking a hard look on how law enforcement can work more effectively with communities, in our communities, to keep those communities safe.
Bob, John, Jarrod, and Channa, thank you all so much. Appreciate it.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.